Okay, students, today we're going to be working on lesson 6-2. Before we start on the lesson out of the book, I want you to tune in right here to this piece of paper, and we're going to talk about some common fractions that we should know the decimal form of it, and we should know the percent form of it without having to do much thinking. So we're going to start with the fraction that is a half. A half. And I'm going to put my calculator up here, and I'm going to take a half. 1 divided by 2. That's how you put a half in your calculator. 1 divided by 2. And guess what I get? I get 5/10. So the decimal form of that is 5/10. Okay? And the percent form of that is to take this 5/10 right here and multiply it by 100. And guess what you get? 50%. So, let's think about this for a minute. If I had a candy bar and I ate half of it is the same as 5/10. If there were 10 divisions in that candy bar and I ate 5 of them, that's the decimal form, 5/10. And I ate half of it, which was 50% of that candy bar. So to get from the fraction to the decimal, I just divide the numerator divided by the denominator to get that decimal. And to get from the decimal to the percent column, I multiply by 100. So when I'm going this way, I'm going to divide. I'm going this way, I'm going to multiply by 100 to take this decimal and turn it into percent. So let's do another one. Let's do a fourth. 1/4. If I take 1 and divide it by 4, I get 0.25. Can you see that? I got 0.25. So there is 0.25. Now, if I multiply that by 100, I get 25%. Now, the easiest way to multiply by 100 is move this decimal 2 places. 1, 2. See, it ends up at the end of 25, which is 25%. If I move this decimal place 2 places, 1, 2, it ends up 50. I had to fill in a 0 right there. Okay? How about 3/4? 3/4. Let's move that up a little bit. 3/4. I'm going to get my light right here. 3 divided by 4. You can do the same thing with your calculators. 3/4 is 0.75. 3/4 of a dollar is 75 cents. And then if I want to turn that into a percent, I multiply by 100, so it moves my decimal 2 places, so that's 75%. Now these are all ones that you should know by memory. Now what's going to happen if I have if I don't go from here to here to here? What if they give me 60% and they want me to find the other two? Well, when we say percent, that means, let's go do the fraction first. That means 60 out of 100. And then we have to reduce that fraction. So one set of zeros cancel, so that reduces to 6/10. And then divide both of them by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that must be 3/5. There's the fraction form, and you want the lowest form. Now see where this was tenths, 6/10, 6/10. There you go. You got it. Oh, well, what if they gave us the decimal version? What if they gave us 4/10? Then how do I go here and here? Well, we said 4/10, so that is 4/10. So let's reduce that. Divide by 2 is 2. Divide by 2 is 5. And then over here, to get from here to here, I multiply by 100, so I move it 2 places. So that is 40%. So what I'm trying to show you here is, if I give you the percent, you need to be able to give me this one and this one. If I give you the decimal, you need to be able to give me this one and this one. If I give you the fraction, you need to be able to give me the other two. It doesn't matter which one I give you. Fractions, decimals, and percents are like cousins. You got to be able to find the other version. They're all connected. Okay, now let's go to the lesson. 6-2. We're going to relate fractions, decimals, and percents. It says, I can write equivalent values as fractions, decimals, or percents. We just did some of those. Let's answer the little question here. The grid is shaded with blue, orange, and yellow. What part of the grid is blue? So I'm going to come down here and write the word blue. And what part is orange? And what part is yellow before I move this? Blue, what part is blue, what part is orange, and what part of the grid is shaded? What part of the grid is shaded? I want total shaded. I'm going to go find them all. I don't think it asked for yellow, but I'm going to go find them all. Okay, so I'm going to go count the blue. And I'm going to mark them off with a little check mark as I count them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So there was 20 of these. Out of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 times 10 is 100. So there's 100 total. So this was 20 out of 100 for 20% shaded blue. Let's do the orange. I'm going to start up here in the top left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. There's 32 out of 100, so that's 32% orange. See why it's good to mark them off? It helps. Okay, I want you to count the yellow ones, marking them off quietly, silently to yourself, and I will do the same thing, and I will not count out loud and mess you up. Now, I got 48%. And do you agree that I have a check mark in every box up there? So I have counted all three of these colors added together give me the total. Well, can we take a minute and let's see, what does 20%, so 20 plus 32 plus 48, what does that add up to? 20 plus 32 plus 48 adds up to 100. So the total shaded is 100%. When you add up every box that's up there, it should be 100%. All right. Now, because we counted every color, let's go down here to the focus. It says write the part of the grid that's shaded yellow. Yellow was what? I already have it done right here. It was 48 out of 100, and it said write it as a decimal. Write it as a decimal and a percent. So we're going to write it as a percent first, and then we're going to write it as a decimal, 0.48. How are the decimal and the percent alike, and how are they different? Well, they have the same number, but the decimal point is in a different place. Let me get that where you can see it. Okay, 48% is the percent form. Decimal 48 is the decimal form. They have the same number. They have the same number, but the decimal is in a different place. Now, seriously, students, there's a decimal right there at the end of that number 48. We don't write it, but it's there. Okay, because when we divide 100 into 48, we get 0.48. So this was 48 with the decimal at the end. It moved that decimal 2 places over. They have the same number, but the decimal is in a different location or different place. All right, turn your paper over. Look at example 1. Express percents and decimals as parts of whole. The portion of the time that Teddy spends doing homework for each subject is shown in the bar diagram. How can you write the amount of time Teddy spends on reading or science as a fraction, decimal, and percent? Fractions, decimal, and percents are 3 ways, remember they're cousins, 3 ways to show parts of a whole. How can you use reasoning to write quantities as a fraction, a decimal, or a percent? Okay, we've already talked about that a little bit at the very beginning of the lesson. So they're going to show you down here how they want to do it. We're going to write 30% as a fraction and as a decimal. 30%, just like I showed you, means 30 over 100, reduces to 3/10. 3/10 is written as 3/10. 30 out of 100, when you divide that, you get 0.3 or 3/10. Okay, just like I showed you earlier. Write 1/10 as a fraction and as a percent. 0.1 means the same thing as 10%. 10%. This is write 0.1 as a fraction and then as a percent. Let me say it right. So we're going to write 1/10. 1/10 is the same thing. I would have done it differently. I would have taken 1/10 and turned that in by multiplying by 10 over 10. I get 10 over 100. They started out with the 10 over 100. I don't know why they put that first. Okay? They need to show 1/10 like this. 1/10. Okay? And then, if you multiply that by 100, it turns it into 10%. 1/10 is the same as 10%. Okay? No work to be done there. It's just following their explanation, which is a little difficult sometimes. Anna spends 45 hundredths of her homework time reading. That's the decimal form. What is 45 hundredths as a percent? Well, if you can read a decimal, you ought to be able to write the fraction because this is in the hundredths position. So what I'm saying is 45 hundredths, which in turn is 45%. Now, those of you that didn't learn your place value well, you're going to have a hard time with this because this is tenths position and this is hundredths position. So when you read that, you read it 45 hundredths, which is 45 out of 100. When the bottom number or the denominator is 100, your top number is your percent. So that 45 hundredths changes to 45%. Now then, it says, what relationship do you see when comparing the equivalent fraction and the percent? The fraction with the percent. This numerator is the same as the percent. So when your denominator is 100, when the denominator is 100, comma, the numerator of the fraction is the percent. See, 45%. Because this is 100, this 45 can be written as 45%. All right, let's go to example 2. Express fractions as parts of a whole. Teddy spends 3/5 of his homework time doing math problems. Write 3/5 as a decimal and as a percent. Okay, so we're going to take 3/5, we're going to write it as a decimal. Well, I showed you how to do that earlier. You can do it longhand. You're going to take the 3 and divide it by the 5. The 3 divided by the 5. If you have a calculator, you can do that real easily and turn it into 6/10. Okay? Or you can take 3/5 and you can change this number into tenths. If I multiply this by 2 and multiply this by 2, we get 6/10. If you know how to read 6/10, you get the same thing. So now that is equivalent to 6/10. If you can read the fraction, you can write the decimal. Anytime your bottom number is in a number like 10 or 100 or 1,000 or any multiple of 10, if you can read that fraction, you can write the decimal. So 3/5 can be written as 6/10, or it can be written like this. 60 hundredths. 60 hundredths is the same as 6/10. All right? And then we're going to write the percent. Well, after you get this, all you got to do is move your decimal 2 places to the right, multiply by 100, and you get 60%. So 3/5 can also be written as 60%. There's the decimal, and there is the percent. Okay? They took 3/5, they multiplied 3 by 20 and got 60, 5 by 20 and got 100, got an equivalent fraction. When the bottom number is 100, your top number is your percent answer. Okay, example 3. Use division with equivalent rates to express fractions as part of a whole. Teddy's friend Jacob spends 5/8 of his homework time doing math problems. Write 5/8 as a decimal and as a percent. Use division to find the decimal. Then use the decimal to find an equivalent rate. Okay? All right. Now this one gets a little bit more difficult because 8 is not a factor of 10 or 100. So we got to go a little bit further. Now you have some calculators at your desk. So we're going to take 5/8 and we're going to turn it into the decimal. So turn your calculator on, clear it a couple of times. We want 5 divided by 8. 5/8 is 0.625. So long division right here, they ended up with 0.625. There's the decimal form. They asked for the decimal form. There it is. Now then, here's what I've been saying. If you know how to read this decimal, that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, then 625 over 1,000 is your fraction form. Okay? If you can read this, you can write this. All right, let's see how they did it over here on this other side. They said use the decimal to find an equivalent rate. So, they said you read this, you write this. Then you write this, and you divide top and bottom by 10 because we want this bottom number to be 100, not 1,000. So they divided by 10, divided by 10. So they get 62.5. There's a decimal in there when that's 100. So it's 62.5%. Sometimes your percents don't come out whole numbers. They have decimals in them. So here's your answer to that right there. Okay? Let's do the try it at the bottom. All of that was done for us. Let's try our own. Isabel spends 3/8 of her homework time on reading. We want to take 3/8 and we want to find the decimal and the percent. Well, we're going to use our calculator. I want you to put 3/8 in your calculator. 3 divided by 8, 0.375. So 3/8 is equal to 0.375. That's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So that's 375 thousandths. Now, we need this bottom number to be 100. So we're going to divide by 10 to get that to be 100. And we're going to divide this by 10. Well, what is that? What is 375 divided by 10? 37.5. Now then, the top number is my percent, so it's 37.5%. So it asks for a decimal and a percent. Here's the decimal, here's the percent. All right. Let's go to page 356. Fractions to decimals to percents. Fractions to decimals to percents. Fractions to decimals to percents. Just like I showed you at the beginning of class, it shouldn't make any difference which column, which number I give you. If I give you this, you should be able to get this and this. Okay? All right, let's look at the do you understand. How are fractions, decimals, and percents related? Well, don't tell me they're cousins, even though I did say that. But you got to tell me how they're related. They're different ways to describe parts of a whole. They are all different ways to describe parts of a whole. They are all different ways to describe parts of a whole. Number 2, why do you use a denominator of 100 when you write a percent as a fraction? Because a percent compares the number to 100. The percent compares the number to 100. Number 3, how do you use the digits in a hundredths decimal to write a percent? We're going to make one up. We're going to make up 0.43. That's in the hundredths position. Tenths, hundredths. How do we write this? We use the number and write it over 100. Use the number and write it over 100. So that is 43 hundredths. Number 4, how do you write a fraction with the denominator of 20 as a decimal? Okay, let's make one up. Let's do 3/20. So how do you write a fraction with the denominator of 20 as a decimal? Divide the numerator by the denominator. So it's 3 divided by 3.000 by 20. Make sure you show me the correct dividend and the correct divisor. And it ends up, by the way, as 0.15. All right, let's go to number 5. Write each number in equivalent forms using the 2 other forms of notation. If it gives you percent, then we're going to write the fraction in the decimal. If it gives us the decimal, we're going to write the fraction in the percent, so forth and so on. So number 5, 27% is equivalent to 27 over 100. There's the fraction. Now what's the decimal? I'm going to divide 100 into that, which is going to give me 0.27. My decimal is right here at the end of this number. When I divide, it goes this way and makes it smaller, 0.27. Or if you don't believe me, get your calculator and do 27 divided by 100, and you get 0.27. All right, on number 6, if I can read the decimal, I can write the fraction. This is in the hundredths position, so that's 91 hundredths, which is 91%. When the bottom number is 100, your top number is the percent. And number 7, doesn't get any easier. This is decimal 0.6 600ths, and it is 6%. This is already 100, so the percent is just the top number. They're all connected: decimal, percent, and fraction. All right, look at number 8. Greek yogurt has 25% of the calcium that most people need in a day. What is 25% as a decimal? 25% means 25 out of 100. 25 out of 100 is 0.25. 25 hundredths as a decimal. Number 9, Linda received 4/5 of the votes in the election for student council. What percent? So we want to take 4/5, and several different ways we can do this, but I'm going to multiply it by 20 times 20 times 20, because I know 5 times 20, there's 20 nickels in a dollar. So 5 times 20 is 100, and 4 times 20 is 80. Now my bottom number is 100, so 80 is equal to 80%. She got 80% of the votes. Now, if you didn't know to multiply that by 20, how are you going to do it? Well, you're going to take 4 and divide it by 5, and you're going to get 0.8. Then you're going to multiply by 100 to get 80%. Or take the 0.8 and say, oh, that's 8/10. I know how to read that. Then multiply top and bottom by 10, and you're going to get 80% that way. 2 or 3 or 4 different ways to do that. Alrighty, now you're going to try it. Next page is practice and problem solving. I'm seeing 10 through 21 on this page. I need you to work diligently and make sense of your fraction, your decimal, and your percent form. This is very, very, very important. We're going to spend 2 days on this lesson. We're going to practice it again tomorrow. And so get busy. Work by yourself. Always, always, always try to do it yourself before you ask for help. Do your own thinking. I'll see you next time. Get busy.